If you're at all involved in the Killer Instinct fanbase, you'll know that Iron Galaxy put out a live stream on Wednesday detailing the patch notes of the Killer Instinct 10th Anniversary Edition. Today I'm going to be breaking this down into a short, condensed video, and with that said, let's get right into the winners and losers from the patch. Just to detail a few general things, this will be available for the PC and Xbox edition only. They're streamlining a new edition, so if you already have the definitive edition of Killer Instinct, it's going to be replaced for free by the Anniversary Edition. The base version is going to be free to play, and all characters are going to rotate weekly instead of bi-weekly, which is pretty cool. Let's move on to the characters that were untouched. Saberwolf, TJ Combo, Con-Ra, Riptor, Hisako, Cinder, Shadow Jago, Fulgore, Arbiter, and Mira. These are all characters that are not getting any changes coming to the Anniversary Edition. There's been a system change where projectiles not getting the first hit did not receive the 2x damage bonus, and this has been fixed. All the gameplay is going to come from this live stream since it's not in the game yet. I can't show it off. Keep that in mind. There's going to be a new character select screen and new character portraits. They both look very nice. And with that being said, let's start getting into the actual character changes. Jago. So Jago has been buffed. He got a 10% walking speed increase. They improved the hitbox and active time of jumping heavy punch. And now Tiger's Fury has a damage buff to hit stun and damage on a counter hit. They did not provide the numbers, but this is a buff for Jago. Like this is pretty good. This should definitely make his winning matchups better and some of his losing matchups better. And it's going to be up to the Jago players to get the most out of Tiger's Fury on a counter hit. I think that's going to be pretty huge for Jago. Next we have Glacius. Glacius is getting a nerf. Rejoice. Everyone rejoice, except for Glacius players, I guess. Glacius received a reduced frame advantage after a successful combo breaker to 0. Previously, he was +4 on a combo breaker, so what that means for Glacius was, if you got a combo breaker, he would be plus on block still. That's been set to 0, and now he has an increased distance of a combo break as well. Previously, you could follow up with his Ice Spike forward move, so that's a pretty massive change. Cold Shoulder. Cold Shoulder received a nerf. Now, the frame data is going to be on light, -3, medium, -5, and heavy, -8 on block. So you can actually punish this move now. A standing Cold Shoulder in the Shadow Hail is now a true on block string, though. So that's kind of a burf. That's like a buff and a nerf at the same time. This will now allow players to get a good punish off of blocking Cold Shoulder standing. The last change I have for Glacius is there was 4 frames of recovery time added on whiff and block for Instinct Puddle Punch, which again, huge change. I don't want to say nerf hammer. I'm going to put Glacius in the slight nerf. This will affect Glacius players to a very strong degree. For how it will affect their matchups, though, I don't know. I don't play Glacius. So this is more of a, this is going to be a slight nerf until we test it out and actually see what the effects of this are. Right, Mr. Thunder. So now, the limited time window for follow-up of DP where he goes into the air, he can mix it up, slam down. That timing is now earlier, making it a more committal move. 5 frames of recovery time are added to drop kick, Surprise Me, and Summonish, I think is how you say it. So that's a big change. They increased his walk speed by 20% forward and back, huge. And they shortened the recovery time on Call of the Sky by 5 frames. That's his buff move. So, right, so this is like a mixed buffing and nerfing. Thunder players, if this is going to be a huge change for you, that's awesome. I'm very happy for you. Increased walk speed is huge, though. 20% is a lot, and shortening recovery time on Call of the Sky by 5 frames is also pretty huge. So now when you do your DP, though, it's going to be more committal. You're going to have to really think about it instead of just kind of throwing it out there. So keep that in mind when you are going to be using it. Miss Sadira. A bug was fixed where she can web call when she's in a combo breaker. Pretty good change, and they increased her walk speed by 20%. So I would say this is a slight buff. 20% is pretty good for her. She was already pretty fast. Or actually, no, I lied. So Sadira, what players would do is they would have to jump because her jump speed was a lot faster than her walk speed. So this would be a really good change. I'm actually going to move her to buffed. This is a huge change for Sadira. You're going to have to worry less about anti-airs. You won't have to spam jump to get across the screen. Like, that is a massive, massive buff, in my opinion. That's going to change the way that the character is played. So, Sadira players, rejoice. Orchid. There is a lot to cover for Orchid. Fixed bug where she could ground combo breaker into Shadow Uppercut. So if she was stuck in a combo breaker, she would still be able to use Shadow Uppercut, which was not intended at all. She can no longer call Jaguars when she's stuck in a combo breaker. Again, it's along the same line. There was a buff, though, to Instinct Jags, and now they do an additional 15 frames of hit stun on grounded opponents, and they now launch airborne opponents into a better position for a juggle combo. Huge. The Jaguar hitbox also was improved. Previously, you could jump to the back of it. The hitbox didn't cover the back end of the Jaguar, and they fixed that now, so really big change. Going along with other big changes. Orchid's Knee Slide Light is now -2 on block. Medium Knee Slide travels further and faster with 5 additional startup frames and 7 additional recovery frames. It's -8 on block now, and Heavy Slide now travels really far. Heavy Knee Slide is now -13 on block with an additional 10 startup frames and 22 additional recovery frames. So it's a more committal move, but I like the changes for Knee Slide. So I'm more than happy with it. Shadow Knee Slide is now immune to projectiles on frame 0 and not 2. That is huge. So previously, if you were an Orchid player and you slid and Jago threw a fireball at the right time, or someone threw a projectile at the right time, you would get hit out of your Knee Slide. Right now it's frame 0, so if you can like play footsies, get close enough to use light Knee Slide or medium, whatever you want to do, now you're going to be immune on frame 0, which is a huge change. So that's a pretty good buff. Orchid was really bug fixes and buffs, so I'm going to put her in buffed. Spinal, not much for our favorite little laughing skeleton, silly little guy. Spinal, walk speed, forward increase by 20% and back speed by 10%. I'm going to say this is a slight buff. Spinal was already, actually, you know what? Spinal was already pretty good. This should be pretty huge for Spinal. Lets him get in faster. He doesn't have to worry about projectiles as much since he can close the distance quicker. So I want to say that's a buff for Spinal. That's a pretty good buff for Spinal. Fulgore players, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for you. Alright, let's get into Fulgore changes, man. Oh, they're going to be pissed. I saw Max on Twitter. Max on Twitter, if I can find this picture. It's like Fulgore's trash, and it had the Ron from Parks and Rec throwing the computer in the trash, so you can just tell how this is going to go. Blade Dash block stun is now -4, -6, and -8. Big change. Now you can pip cancel Blade Dash on whiff or block into the following moves instead of having to commit to the uppercut. You can now cancel it into Energy Bolt, Eye Laser, Plasma Port, and Plasma Slice, so it's a burf. That's a pretty good change, I think. Heavy Eye Laser now costs 20 KV instead of 10. That's a bit rough. You're going to lose 5 KV now for each cancel, except for Energy Bolts 2 and 3, which is 2 KV each. So another pretty big nerf targeting the KV meter. For our next change, Instinct Mode is now 15 seconds long, and more usage of specials will drain faster, resulting in a 10 to 11 second Instinct Mode. That is a freaking huge change. Huge. Light and medium eye laser hit stop and block stop time has been increased from 6 frames to 15 frames. Heavy is unchanged. So that is a pretty significant nerf. Energy Bolt hit stun is now normalized across the board, and we have -4 frames of hit stop and block stop on Double Claw. Ooh, okay. Keeping that all in mind, they gave him mix-ups out of Pip Cancel from Blade Dash. Now Blade Dash is negative on block, though, so you're going to have to be really careful with how you use it. His draining of the KV meter now is, again, going to be huge. Less that Fulgore can do in Instinct Mode. I do really like the hit stop and block stop increase times from 6 to 15, though. That's a really good change. I'm going to say that this all balances out still, I think, to be the Nerf Hammer. I feel pretty confident that Fulgore belongs in the Nerf Hammer. Maya has one change. Dagger Assault no longer ends if she gets hit, only when she's knocked down. So what this means is, if you're fighting a Maya player, she has you in the corner and the daggers are on you, you're going to have to knock her down now. For Maya players, though, what that means is, you're going to have to look out for lows. So whether you want to crouch block or jump, right, you can now bait people into knocking you down and punishing them. I want to say that is a slight buff. That is pretty good for Maya. I don't know how much that's going to do for her in way of tiers, but that's a pretty solid change. Omen. I hate this character. So Omen. Omen now has a reduced meter gain on all enders except his meter type enders. So that's a very slight nerf. Omen will still be a threat, but now his meter gain will not be super crazy on enders, so that's fine, I suppose. Our favorite giant rock boy was hit with nerfs. Alright. Aganos received hit stun inflicted by medium and shadow neutral disaster. They did not provide frame data for this, but it is pretty decent from the footage, what I can tell. They reduced roll crash damage from 60 to 48. They reduced damage per hit from heavy payload assault from 8 to 2. And Peacemaker pushback changed to be not as far. Previously, if you had Peacemaker and you got a pushback, you can keep your opponent at bay further to kind of zone them out, wall them out. That has been changed now to be not as far, so if you're playing Aganos still, basically, they are going to have a decent chance to get in on you after that. The division for this, what was described in the live stream, was Aganos was meant to be like a specialized character, but Aganos players pushed this character so far that they had no other course of action but to give him nerfs. Some of these are kind of big to a degree, but I don't want to say nerf hammer. I'm going to put him in nerf hammer for now, actually, because I don't know. I need this patch to come out so we can test things. Alright, Cinder. Cinder received one change. Nothing huge. Counter hit punch buttons do a proper amount on counter hit. They previously were not, so slight buff for Cinder. Aria, oh my god. So many changes for Aria. All damage on enders was reduced by 1 to 2 and does not affect the phase, body, or swap enders. So, not too bad. Reduced pushback when blocking Crescendo, so she can't just wall you out with it anymore. That's a pretty decent change. Her jumping medium kick now has increased vertical distance, so Aria players will go higher when using the jumping medium kick, and they reduced the horizontal distance of it. Pretty big change. They used to be able to wall you out with this. It's going to have to be something that Aria players get used to. They can't wall you out as easily anymore. They even changed the drones. Drone assist calls now leave drones punishable for an additional 30 frames. That's pretty big. And drones when flying home are no longer invincible. Again, pretty huge change. The sword drone launches higher now. Previously was punishable on hit, and now allows for new jungle combos. Good change. Aria is getting some burfs, so she'll probably go in the mixed tier with this. There's 2 more changes we have. Heavy and medium shotgun blitz, no longer low crush frame 1. Now medium is frame 5 and heavy is frame 4. And shotgun blitz has more hit stun on block. Now light is 14, medium 16, and heavy 18. What that means for Aria players is that there are some things that they're going to have to get used to. The drones are going to be riskier to use. Overall, these are good changes. Kim Woo. Kim Woo. Oh man, all one of you Kim Woo players rejoice right now. They increased her walk speed by 15%. Her jump gravity increased. She's less floaty now, which is really good. Her jump is very similar to Jago's jump now. Jago's jump's like middle of the road, so that's going to be good for her. Jumping light punch, jumping medium punch, jumping heavy punch, and jumping light kick. Hit stop and hit stun have been decreased. So they took her already really good aerials and decided to buff them more. And honestly, that's a great change for her, and I'm really happy she got it. All normal versions now of Dragon Kick ignore armor. And this was done to improve one of her worst matchups in Aganos. So that's going to be really huge for Kim Woo players. They also increased the travel speed and distance of Dragon Kick, and they nerfed Dragon Kick damage by 20 on light. So, I'm gonna say slight buff. Like, those are pretty big changes for Kim Woo. She's actually, I'm gonna say that she is going to be semi-viable now. Definitely gonna be not the worst character in the game now, hopefully, because I really like this character. I don't play her, but I like her a lot. So, I want to see more Kim Woo. Next, we have Tusk. Tusk only received one change, which is 30% more time in Berserk mode. Pretty good. Berserk mode's a huge part of his game plans. Pretty good change. The moment we've all been waiting for. Rash. Rash. This fucking character. Wrecking Ball air armor has been removed. Huge change. You can now actually counterplay Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball air and ground now have heavy attack priority instead of special. priority moves in this game. Special moves usually get priority over normals. So now him having a heavy attack priority is going to massively change how Rash players use it. It's going to be a more risky option to use. So, great change. They reduced the block stun from 18 to 10 frames on ground and 24 to 10 frames if it's the aerial version. What that means is you will now have an opportunity to actually punish this move instead of just being jailed by it and, getting grabbed. So, huge nerf. Standing heavy kick now has an additional 6 frames recovery time added, plus 6 frames block stun and hit stun time. So, it's a compensating nerf and buff. Buff due to the hit stun time increase, and a nerf due to the block stun and recovery frames. Another big change is that they shortened the cancel window on standing heavy kick from 19 to 30 to 19 to 21, and the hit stop was reduced, so confirming it is harder. Again, huge change. That was a major part of Rash's game plan, so really good nerf. 5 frames of recovery time was added to the overhead hammer fist, and they adjusted block stun to stay -3 on block. Again, huge change. Now Rash players can't just spam overhead hammer fist. They reduced the damage in the opener on battering Raam from 10, 13, and 16 to 8, 9, and 10 respectively. So light, medium, heavy. They even reduced the wall splat range of Rash Wrecking Ball's Ender. So now you will not fly 2 full frame lengths away, and now it's just like, I want to say it's slightly above half of the screen you'll fly now. Again, huge change. Rash's throw now does 35 damage instead of 45. They lowered the damage of all Ender types by 1 to 2 points. They reduced the damage on Shadow, Big Bam Boom. It used to do 52, and now it's going to do 32. Huge nerfs for Rash. Rash players now actually have to use their brain when they play this character, so fantastic nerf. Very happy. Gargos. Gargos received a slight nerf. Portal Punch damage on LPP was increased from 7 to 10, and block stun was reduced by 5 across the board. What that means is it'll do slightly more damage, but the block stun has been increased, so more opportunities to punish Gargos on that. I want to say this is mixed. Not bad. Not a bad change. General Raam only has 1 change, which made me very upset. I love this character. I usually don't play like the grappler heavy types, but I love Here's a War. I love General Raam, so yeah. He got a slight buff. All versions of Krill Rush now attempt to grab 1 frame after startup, which is huge. Previously, when General Raam would try to use that command grab, the Krill armor would wear off by the time the grab hit. So they changed the startup to account for that, which is freaking awesome. Iron Galaxy, thank you. So we might actually be seeing more General Raam. So if you're a General Raam specialist, you are living your best life right now. Eyedol. Huge changes for you, buddy. They reduced the odds of changing modes after self-face punch, and the damage was increased from 5 to 10. They're testing this on a live stream. He got it in 2, he got it in 3 a couple times, and then there was one string where it was 6 or 7 times. So that's a huge change. Shadow Hold Strike now has projectile invulnerability instead of full invulnerability. Stomp Strike was adjusted from 0, +2, and +3 on block to -2, -4, and -6 on block. In Iron Galaxy's words, it didn't make sense for a zoner to have a good rushdown tool like that could jail you, so I like this change. So I'm going to say these are actually pretty decent nerfs. I don't want to say it's a nerf hammer, but it's pretty decent nerfs. We're going to skip Eagle for a second and do Shin Hisako. She only has 1 change. Miss Hisako. Oh, I said you were not changed earlier, didn't I? Okay, I lied. Hisako has 1 change. And that's her moving Spirit Orb, which she can teleport to, now moves 2 times as fast. This will be good for Hisako players, so now they can do mix-ups more often. Eagle, our last character to look at here. Decent amount of changes. 4 additional frames of block stun and hit stop are increased to bow spin. Recovery time after Sonic Screech and Bird Bomb have been increased from 120 frames to 210 frames, and Bird Bomb was increased from 120 to 180 frames. That is really big. So now, Eagle players, you have to really think about when you want to use Sonic Screech and Bird Bomb. 4 frames of block stun were added to Sonic Screech after Absolute Guarding. What Absolute Guarding is, if you don't know, is you block until the game will allow you to auto-block, and that is what's called Absolute Guard. They adjusted the Bird Bomb explosion hitbox to be taller and closer to Eagle. Previously, you can kind of just jump over it and get close to Eagle and punish him for it. They increased the damage on Bird Bomb from 14 to 20. Bird Scoop pushback was increased from 10 to 15. Good change. Increased damage on Fling, they did not provide numbers. And Instinct Mode Peck now deals 10 frames of additional hit stun to opponents, which will launch airborne opponents into a juggle state, and the hitbox size has been doubled. So, pretty good buffs, dude. Eagle players, you're living large. Aside from the Sonic Excretion Bird Bomb recovery times, you're living your best life right now. They made your life easier, so good for you. But yeah, that's really all the changes that we have so far. Iron Galaxy did say that if things did not feel good when this rolls out, that they would make adjustments, which I think is really cool. I'm really happy that Microsoft is actually allowing them to update this game so far into its life cycle. I think this could set a great precedent for other fighting games. That's all I have for you. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I do stuff like this semi-often. I do funny moments, I do guides, mostly Street Fighter 6, Killer Instinct, and soon Tekken 8. So if you want to see that, please stick around, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.